We obviously, during the sort of Henry VIII era, you were able to pay tax in cannabis. You were not just incentivized, but could be jailed if you had more than, was it 4 acres?
And you were
More than four, I think it was more than 4 acres, and you had to dedicate a quarter of an acre per X amount of acreage had to be towards producing cannabis reserve. And then obviously, yeah, when we colonized the US as part of like the European colonization project prior to the establishment of the United States and their independence, in Jamestown. I always get these mixed up. Jamestown was the massacre, wasn't it? That was that was the Kool-Aid. So it's is it Jonestown? I need to reread several books. But yeah, one of the
Jim
colonies,
Jones was
one
the
of
guy
the
who
one of
killed
the
his
col-
family, so that's the massacre. Jim Jones was the massacre,
yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
it?
So it was the colony in Virginia. Anyway, it was the colonies in Virginia. They were decreed and had to basically you were forced to grow cannabis, and so we had a very positive view on cannabis. It wasn't really in record that we started having an issue with it until around the probably early 1800s. Actually, I think the main record that I can think of is a general complaining to the head of the empire, who was working in Mauritius, which was one of the British islands that we'd sort of taken over, and they were basically stating that the native labourers were consuming of a plant that made them lethargic and lazy. And then this kind of spread, and then we ended up with shit in like the Indian regions that we were running, and various of the spots where basically over the next decade or so, there just became this narrative that the indigenous folks, obviously the non-white is the way they basically were like, oh, well, they're not us, and look at what they're doing. They're not, working as hard, and we're having to beat them and having to fucking like do all these things.
Yeah, they're like, what? Being productive. These fuckers are having a fucking smoke.
That's exactly the thing. But they saw it almost as this is what was causing their defiance. This is what was causing them. So the laziness and the lethargy was almost a way of speaking to them being less. I think actually, I'm thinking back to one of my Product Earth demonstrations, things, and one of the slides. I think there was one of the group of colonies that basically stated, that stated that, yeah, it was a lack of productivity. Cannabis reduced productivity. I think that was the actual terming, was productivity. And it was basically just stating that, yeah, they were not picking as much fucking beet. They weren't like breaking down as much sugar beet. Sorry, they weren't as active in the trade that the white man believed that they should be. And obviously, it's who the fuck. If you're enslaved to something, if you're forced to do something, who the fuck's going to do that with enthusiasm? And then if you're forced by the kosh, even worse, like actual violence, then it's that sort of next level bullshit. But yeah, basically, from that, it always became that the other people's drug use is bad. And that still exists today in Parliament. They found methamphetamine in the Home Office. They found coke constantly in Parliament. And yet they're like, well, these drugs and all these out here. Yet on the weekends, they are fucking on it.
The amount of dirty looks we get at all these fucking events, obviously not smoking events, they're nice, but like when you're out in public or you walk in a pub, oh, it fucking stinks, and there's signs up, there's no drugs and all this. But you see the one group of lads that are flicking to the toilet, and then you see the bar owner just flick upstairs for 5 and come down beaming.
Yeah, exactly. Either they're into it themselves, or they recognise that, no, actually, they'll drink more alcohol. So they can overlook the morality because they're making money from it. And that's exactly what I feel is happening right now with prescription cannabis in the UK. I don't know if you've seen, but cookies are going to be coming to the market as a medical producer. And again, I keep commenting, no offense to either the plug or Big Nasty, but I just can't help but feel that we're just causing such a muddying of the waters that if then these big recreational brands that, according to our POCA, the Proceeds of Crime Act, would make them international criminals, can then have a subsidiary, and then
is it or isn't it? Because it's totally different. It's not just cannabis sativa L, is it? It's capital M medical.
Well, exactly. They've created a system of manipulation and control that as long as you've got the paper, as long as you say the word medical, and then you get it in your little tub and it's got your little sticker on, you don't think where that weed has come from. You don't think what that weed is. We still don't know what most, if any, of the prescription cannabis medications are grown with. There isn't this transparency or honesty.